Hello again, and welcome to another Sorcero non-promotional thought leadership webinar. I'm Zeinab Sulaiman, and I lead the Medical Affairs Center of Excellence here at Sorcero. I'm really excited today to be joined with an esteemed panel of experts who will shortly introduce themselves, and we'll be talking to you about the various options that are available to pharma companies in general, with a focus on medical affairs, and when it comes to introducing AI technologies to their teams, including the build versus buy options and the advantages and disadvantages of each. And we will then focus on bespoke AI solutions that are available to medical affairs. With that, I'm going to turn over to our esteemed panel of experts who've joined us today for this webinar to introduce themselves. Haider, welcome and thank you
Thank you.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Zeinab, for the invite. My name is Haider. I lead the team called Allegory Capital in Geneva, and we focus on digital health, fintech, and climate tech. And obviously, AI is sneaking in a lot of our ventures we invest in, and a lot of conversation we have with our investors who are mostly corporate VCs in pharma.
It's a pleasure to have you, Haider. Thank you again for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Vivek, thank you so much
Yeah,
again.
thank you, Zeinab, for having me here. My name is Vivek Mukhatyar. I'm currently in the medical affairs role at Pfizer. My title is Generative AI Medical Engagement Lead. Previously, I've spent 10 years in medical affairs at Allergan and AbbVie, and I'm excited to have this discussion because I believe that generative AI has a incredible potential to help medical affairs, and not just generative AI as well. So, thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure to have you both on this panel. Thank you so much again. Okay, I want to jump straight into it and kind of get us started into talking about AI for pharma, specifically for medical affairs. But before we get into the build versus buy options and the pros and cons of each, I want to talk a little bit in general about the understanding and the adoption of AI across pharma, specifically in medical affairs. Vivek, in your experience and thinking about adoption of AI in pharma, how well understood are the AI solutions for medical affairs? And what are the and also the possibilities that they bring to each function, specifically to medical affairs?
Yeah, no, I think that's the great important point. I think we need to kind of define what AI is. First of all, that AI comes in a lot of different flavors, right? So it's artificial intelligence, generative AI, machine learning, object characterizations. All of these can be kind of put all under AI. And medical affairs has generally been slower relative to commercial in terms of adopting these technologies. What I've seen in my experience that in terms of data analysis, in terms of uh, summarizing things like that, generative AI can be definitely beneficial, but it is a wait and watch for a lot of the organizations. And some organizations are at the forefront. They are already starting to adopt this type of technology. And I'll speak to more on generative AI. That's sort of what I've been working on for the last couple of years. That it has ability to summarize. It has the ability to take insights that medical affairs is very predominantly owners of, and turn them into actionable data that is useful for the rest of the organization. I do believe, again, this is my perspective, and anything I say today is just my perspective. It doesn't reflect the views of any of my previous or current employers. But from from where medical affairs sits, I think their role within the medical organization, within the pharmaceutical organization, and medical device organization has been expanding. We are the owners of very key data sets, and we also have a lot of scientists who are medical affairs. So the ability for them to adopt new technologies like AI, there is a potential. So I think this is not something for medical affairs to shy away from. They should start incorporating this into streamline their processes, finding efficiencies into things that they do. And this technology has the potential to help with data, right? So we do get a lot of data. So that part is also has a lot of incredible potential. So it's wait and watch early for absolutely in certain companies ahead of others in this in adoption.
No, thank you, Vivek. That's really, I think I completely agree with your views, and I agree that many medical affairs teams have really come a long way in truly understanding and unlocking the power that AI can bring to them. Even if it's not fully implemented yet, they understand that they sit on a wealth of data and that AI can really help them unlock it. However, I think we've also noticed that there is still a lot of hesitation amongst some teams or some members of teams around embracing AI. Haider, in your opinion, do you think that some of this hesitation with embracing AI may have to do with the fact that we still can't fully differentiate between hype versus reality, and the fact that there may be a lot of technology parades, but not always the business acumen that's required to bring it to life? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's a good point because we get easily excited by the shiny object in the room, and we get a lot of at least we see a lot of death by pilot because people realize that it's a technology project, it's a data project, it's an IT project, and I have nothing against IT. We need everyone to to make something working, but once commercial people or medical people start to realize 80% of the project is actually data or IT driven, then it becomes less interesting for a lot of folks out there. But this is a reality of that field. It's a technology, and so technology is as good as a tool. I think the hype versus reality comes also from a natural human perspective. We see AI, or at least the little gimmicks that we got to play with, like Claude and ChatGPT, they brought you something fast. And somehow we associated fast with smart. So, and that's how people started to say, oh, if this is fast, it must be smart. So we can actually take some different decisions on this. And that's why I see the hype coming from that, feeling that things could be easy and fast. And when they realize that you have, for example, to do a lot of data annotation and a lot of manpower, this is where it gets a little bit more down to reality.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Do you think that perhaps the approach of really just thinking about the technology and thinking about these projects from a very technical and IT perspective may need to be slightly shifted and more focused on what are the business needs that we're trying to fulfill? Like I always talk about kind of turning AI projects on their head and actually thinking about what are the business gaps, what are the business problems that we're trying to solve as a medical affairs team or commercial team, and what are we trying to achieve as part of that solution, and how does AI fit into that solution to make it less of a IT project, or to your point, medical or commercial colleagues who quite simply may not be interested in IT projects, but if it's a solution project that brings them a very clear answer to their needs, it may become a lot more interesting and a lot more attractive to them. So how have you seen, and I welcome both of your thoughts on this, maybe Vivek, you can provide your thoughts first. How have you seen companies or organizations turn the AI kind of problem statements into a business problem statement and work backwards from there into how can AI help me achieve this?
Yeah.
The first sign, I would say, yeah, please go ahead, maybe.
No, please, Haider, please go ahead. Yeah.
I would say the first sign is when you don't talk about AI at all. It's basically so transparent that you just do medical affairs in a different way. So I would say once you get the shiny object out of the room and it's not creating that central focus point, you're back to business. It's just you have, like you said, a tool that might do things in a faster way or in a more structured way, or bringing you new opportunities that you can leverage. And I think this is where it requires that type of grounded analysis on what do I expect to do with this. Can I start or change my way of working according to those new technology? But this AI piece is kind of needs to be potentially transparent across the organization, and it will come. I believe that with the organization that do a good job are basically making this piece of technology just seamless in an everyday use, right?
Yeah, and I agree with both of you that it needs to be aligned with business goals. But as a medical affairs, being in medical affairs, what does that mean? So what is our ultimate goal in medical affairs? We want to communicate the data, real-time data, to our clinicians so that they can make the best impact for their patients. So it's communication, insights, and how can the AI be leveraged to improve the common things that we normally do while being very compliant, right? So that is the other piece that often scares some leaders away from AI. But the other part is that leaders often have not played with these technologies enough to know its capabilities. So the one pro tip is to, yes, align the AI goals or AI applications with the current business goals. So how can current business goals be scaled, maybe made more efficient? Utilizing AI is the one kind of low-hanging fruit. Of course, there are some certain applications of generative AI, especially, let's give this as an example, where it's summarization. Things that we do normally take a lot of time, insights from ad boards that take weeks potentially to collate. These type of easy, that take a lot of money, I would just start with some easy solutions. But again, there's more sophisticated solutions that align with medical affairs business needs. So absolutely, that's how I would start there, and then kind of scale from there.
No, that's really helpful insight, and I completely agree with you. Okay, now having kind of established where we are in adoption and understanding of AI, I want to also take a kind of forward-looking scope of how you believe AI is being applied or can be applied today and is going to evolve over the kind of near short-term future. So if you were each to share your 3-week, 3-month, and 3-year vision of the direction and application of AI in pharma, what would that look like? Haider, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think it's a good framework to understand what can you touch and grab. And I think the out-of-the-shelf solution will be a no-brainer when you look at ready-made, ready-to-buy solution in the frame of few weeks. But then you will fall into scalability issues or compliance issues or accuracy, right? So it kind of gives you a bit of a feel of what this technology could do. But whenever you want to translate it in 80 language, whenever you want to make it business process friendly, it fell short. And usually, I'm not against startup trying to do something like a primitive function very well, but usually they will shine with one specific angle of that technology. And this one size fits all usually doesn't fit a medical affairs team because it's so wide in terms of array of function. A 3 month project will likely look like more a pilot that you know what are the scalability conditions of that pilot. I will always recommend the team to say, if you're starting a pilot, don't do it just for fun, like, oh yeah, it's acceptable loss. No, create the condition of killability and scalability of that pilot. And a 3-year project means it's going beyond your tenure. So I always say to people, you might not be there when the project gets live because you might have a promotion somewhere else, right? So you have to do what is going to stand for the next 5 to 10 years. So future proofing a 3 years project, that's a different ask.
That's a really good framework, Haider. I think a lot of our audience will really benefit from that thinking and that framework. Vivek, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that everything Haider mentioned, I look at it from a different perspective. How are our HCPs going to interact with this technology and utilize this technology at 3 weeks, 3 months, let's say potentially in a year versus 3 years from now? And already I'm seeing examples, right? When I talk to clinicians, they're utilizing AI in decision making. They have aggregated all of their data, put through a machine learning model that can predict adverse events in their patient population. So I'll give you an example from surgery that I've worked a lot in my this past, where you can tell just by providing a CT scan image what are the opportunities, what is the possibility of generating an AE, specifically infection or respiratory illness, past surgery. So they're already interacting with AI. So from our medical affairs perspective, what does that translate into? So in the short term, medical affairs needs to be literate around AI. So I would think for the 3 months, definitely, if your organization has not adopted a literacy program or some sort of level upskilling program, that is absolutely necessary. Then identifying how can we impact, right? So a year from now, surgeons, clinicians, HCPs, they're going to incorporate this into their daily practice. Voice is going to become a very important mode of communication with AI systems, because all of us know that everyone has very little time, and that, how do we mitigate that to start leveraging some of these tools in our practice? So same thing goes for medical affairs. A lot of the time we spend on generating content, generating analyzing insights that all can be automated, and that's, I would say, from a year from now. And then 3 years from now, I mean, that's looking into the crystal ball, but this is going to become part of the data is going to drive decision making in real time, and data from real world evidence. And that's another area that medical affairs is excellent at parsing through very complex data sets and putting that together. So that's where insights, aggregating variety of data sources, and to make it much more friendly. So none of these technologies I'm talking about are that much sci-fi. They all exist today. It's just how well they're going to be incorporated. So that's my point of view. But I think
Wow.
yeah, absolutely.
That's really great. Thank you. And I really like the kind of application of the timeline to specifically how medical affairs is evolving and how our stakeholders are now interacting with AI. And I think that your framework, your kind of point of view, together with Haider's scalability framework of what does medical affairs need, how do we make it very focused and specific to medical affairs growing needs from a compliance, regulatory, and kind of data security perspective, combined is a really good framework of thinking about what we need in the near term and the medium term future. So thank you both for sharing your perspective. I want to jump into thinking and getting your perspective about the decision-making process within pharma companies. We know that there's technology that's available. We know that adoption is kind of various and variable across different companies. But as a new company who's thinking about potentially embracing AI solutions for various aspects of their medical affairs or commercialization journey, how do those pharma teams currently make the decision to initiate AI projects? And in an ideal world, how should they approach this? Haider, maybe we start with you this time.
Yeah, so usually I see them coming from IT because they are the holder of kind of the fort, and there are a lot of players out there, when it comes from Salesforce, with their Einstein project, or Microsoft with Copilot. There is a tendency to say, let's stay enterprise class, and let's do the one size fits all. We have the pillars that will stay here in the next 20 years type of thing. So I see that conversation sneaking in, your browser, your Microsoft Teams. So that's usually how there is a bit of education about those topics, slightly but surely. Then you have another extreme is you have one bright employee in a medical affairs team that is a bit savvy and he's using a freemium type of tool, and he just say, oh, the publication you wanted to summarize on PubMed, I just done it in 10 seconds, look, right? And so there is this kind of two strengths of education, and I think I'm not going to say one is wrong and one is better than the other. Is actually this feel like Vivek said, is changing so fast that everyone is kind of going into a rat race, since even some cases like Facebook announcing, they are dumping the cost now of running your own LLM so cheaply that there will be a huge change. So the keyword here is value. How do you monitor the transfer of value of those solutions into your immediate business needs? So, and this is coming back to Vivek's points, you have a reality of your business plan to run every day. Do you have time to explore something? No, you want a contributor to your medical affairs project. And I think this is where this should be. It should come collectively saying, here are the expression of our needs. If we can gain 20% efficiency or time to market, or better accuracy in our decision-making process, that will be good. Do we have a solution out there? So I think it should come in that sense, then finding a solution. And sometimes AI is having solution we don't even thought of the problem yet. We're just excited about something that can be solved. And I think we should reverse this. We should come back to what do we need to achieve? Can we actually take a good decision on selecting player one, player two? Hence it's a good segue for your bespoke model, because I guess the one size fits all doesn't really exist, and it creates frustration. And I think that you see the world in layers. There are some layers that are like vanilla in this AI world. Everyone is using kind of the same approach. And then the more you get to the business node or core, the more you need to think of that. It's not going like the salespeople or the marketing people. It's going to be different for medical. And this is where you need to do that kind of bespoke tuning.
That's really good perspective. And Vivek, kind of thinking about exactly what Haider said, that we shouldn't be thinking about AI first and then where does it fit, and actually thinking about the business value and that transfer of value that the AI solutions brings to the business before making a decision. How well have you seen AI roadmaps be developed and implemented for medical affairs teams that really encompass the various business needs that medical affairs is trying to solve for, and the various areas that medical affairs is currently having challenges, and then how AI solutions, various either off the shelf or bespoke or in-house built ones, may fit into each of those problems? Do we see companies actually focus on developing an AI roadmap? Is that a focus or a priority? Or do we see most pharma companies and medical affairs seem to just jump straight into solutioning?
Yeah, no, I think this ties on to your first question. That what are some of the roadblocks or hurdles that medical affairs or pharma face in adopting AI? I think it comes a lot from leadership. So I'll give you an example of Moderna. I think you've seen that that OpenAI, they have a fantastic collaboration with OpenAI where they were able to provide every single employee access to AI tools so that they can understand and play with it, right? So it comes to what Haider mentioned earlier. You have these early adopters. So how can you make everyone an early adopter so that they can start thinking about their own business objectives and how to leverage AI within them? So those companies, and again, I'm very lucky to work where I do, where they've actually created positions around making sure that we are staying up to date with the current technologies that are evolving so rapidly. So can we leverage our understanding of these to tie it to the business goals and create roadmaps potentially that can be, and some are much better than others because it just does come from the leadership that it has to be in your goals. If it's not in 2024, if then this should be in 2025. That make it part of your business goals where you are leveraging innovation and but again tie it back to your original problem, right? Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. I think they're all are saying the same thing here.
Yeah.
That this is there's so much potential of this technology, but it needs to be tied correctly. In impact feasibility, you can come up with a lot of different frameworks to analyze, how do we measure, and also pilots, and we can talk in length about pilots. The pilots are a great way to establish the ROI or impact or efficiencies, whatever you may want to call it, to adopt AI within pharma.
No, I completely agree. Thank you for your perspective. It's been really great hearing both of your perspectives on the value that AI can bring to medical affairs and the broader commercialization team, and how teams can go about kind of taking steps necessary to effectively introduce and harness the power of AI for the functions. Now I want to touch on kind of the next steps once AI roadmaps in place and once they have the decision-making process locked down. When it comes to selecting the AI solution, I've personally, in my past life, have worked both with in-house built solutions and off-the-shelf solutions, like as you guys mentioned, that many companies are now providing for their employees. And I've experienced the challenges that comes and the pros and cons that comes with both. I want to touch on both of those kind of type of solutions from your perspective and get each of your perspectives on the pros and cons of each from your experience, and also introduce and speak a little bit more in detail about the bespoke approach that Haider touched on, and what that entails and the values that it brings. So maybe let's start, Haider, talking about build model and when and how is it appropriate for companies to build an AI solution? And what factors should they consider when choosing to build an in-house solution or purchase an off-the-shelf solution? What have you seen work in space?
Yeah, if you're a build type of team, you are having the same issue as a startup starting now. You will have, first of all, the talent problem. You'll have to find great MLOps engineer, a great MLOps team, which is not easy to find nowadays, and it's not cheap. Second of all, you will have to get a lot of data to train your model on, which is not cheap neither to get, because especially if you are having a specific therapeutic area, a specific department, a specific problem to solve, finding the data to train your algorithm on and your proprietary data, proprietary stack on is going to cost you a lot of time and money, which you don't have because you need to like literally blitz out of every second week where there is a news in AI, right? So I would say the build model can work when you have a certain maturity or a certain culture. I would call it a data-driven culture, where as a company, you already stopped seeing data in silo, but data in a flux. So you already created the condition for interoperability of data. So if you have this dictionary of data and you have, because pharma companies have data, but usually it is in a solid state. It is in ice, and it is very difficult to get your hands on. Some companies have done a better job than others to fluidify, to create a liquidity out of their data model. And if you have that, yes, do you have like some capex and opex costs, but it's not crazy to think that those companies can build. Yeah.
And the advantages that approach, the kind of key advantages that this approach brings to those companies?
I would say they will get, if they have sensitive informations, if you are a hospital and if you are into specific compliance models with electronic health record and you work with authorities, you might be tempted, like banks are doing. Banks are very much sensitive to get certain layer of their data sets close to them. What I see also right now is the model in the industry is a distributed model. You have some AI to AI model. So you have microservices, you have an AI, but for example, de-hallucinating some outpoint of another AI. So it's a, let's put it that way. It's building, but it's also like a Lego. So you cannot do everything. It's anyway, if you decide to build, you are going to use libraries and components from someone else. And it's about what do you decide to keep close to the mothership that is the real value of your company, that you don't want another AI to get trained on. And that is, we come back into the ethics, privacy, compliance. This is more into that realm.
That's really helpful. From your perspective, Vivek, how has kind of the build option worked, and what have you seen it add value or challenges?
Yeah, and I'm going to echo what Haider mentioned in areas where your data is sensitive. So this is a concept I've heard recently. It's called Own Your Own Intelligence. So OI. It is those, within pharma, there are oftentimes patient data, patient records, clinical development. So if you're building a protocol generator, those are some of the ideas that you have to have very good guardrails around developing those solutions, and the build option may be more feasible. But some of the key challenges that I've also seen are maintenance and being able to continuously support, add features, and the time it takes to develop these can again, it depends on your team and resources and so many other factors, but it can also be longer and it can be very expensive. So those are some of the pros and cons of building. But again, it's so dependent on your use case.
Absolutely. And yeah, and like I said, I kind of worked in a past life on build projects myself, and I experienced all the challenges that you both mentioned, the finding the right talent in-house and finding the resources to build and maintain, and also honestly the cost of the ongoing maintenance or outsourcing the talent, which wasn't quite available in-house, was proving to be way more than what we'd expected as part of that kind of proof of concept project. So it did prove to be much more challenging than initially anticipated. And it does always come back down to kind of, are we tech companies who are really as data driven and have that liquidity that Haider was relating to, or should we focus on being pharma or biotech companies and leave the tech development work to the experts? So that also very much resonates with me now, having been through that experience. Let's touch on buy solutions. Kind of off-the-shelf solutions that you both referred to are now very much readily available and almost at everyone's fingertips. Haider, what are those kind of advantages and disadvantages that those off-the-shelf solutions can bring? I know you touched on some of them, but maybe to summarize.
Yeah. So before we jump into this, I think there is something interesting with AI as a topic, beyond just AI. You know, when you look at the magma of new things technology brought us in the last decades, you know, from metaverse to blockchain, and there is something definitely different about that wave, you know, compared to Web 2. If you think about social media 15 years ago, 20 years ago, for you, the younger of your audience, I think from this side, there is a feel that my job is going to change no matter what I do. So I think this is not like blockchain or metaverse, which is like optional. Here it's like, yeah, my car is going to drive differently. And when you look at this buy solution, no one is ready to take his Toyota or Lexus and put some cameras and make it ready to drive autonomously. Obviously, we want to buy something that is quality graded to be super safe to run in a compliant way. I think the buy model, when you know that whatever you're going to bring to your company will not put your job at risk, it will not put your company at risk, right? It's going to not put your patient at risk. I think this is where you will see much more of those buy solution. Now, when it comes to what types of solution, I would say the commodity piece. So things that were just painful to do, like I want to participate to this webinar and I just want a transcript and I just want to be able to share it with my colleague. I could do it myself, but it's a commodity. I just want to buy 15 bucks. You know, I think if you are in that kind of I buy that type of lightweight commodity things, I think we will see a lot more tool like that. When it comes to, you know, I want to develop an analysis on what types of scientific messages I need to prepare for this symposium, and I need to take in consideration 20 parameters, the age of the key opinion leader, the relationship he has, you know, with one of our advisory board, that kind of solution, then I will be saying, hey, you're starting to dream, you know, you're starting to ask way too much to an AI to come and help you.
That's absolutely right. And it's a really good segue to what bespoke solutions can provide us. But before we jump into that, Vivek, anything to add to off-the-shelf solutions, pros and cons?
I think the pros is the time. We'd like to utilize them. Personally, it would be a great way to pilot and get folks internally using AI, or especially for AI by options. And then the customization, Haider reference, right, and potential risks around data. Those are the two that jump out right away that I would consider doing the buy options. But yeah.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you both. Okay, now I want to jump on the bespoke AI solutions, which may be, I guess, less established or maybe less well understood amongst some of our customers, but very much a rising trend and a viable solution for the more complex use cases. To your point, Haider, you know, not the kind of commodity type buys, but the more complex use cases where medical affairs really needs an AI tuned model that understands the complexities of medical affairs, the scientific data, the complexities around patient needs and the HCP's perspective to really help us actually add value to the way we operate and not another burden where we have to get the tool to do something and then it requires a whole lot of human hours and human time to turn that into something that's digestible and actually useful. So thinking about the complexities of our industry, which I guess very much resonates with the financial industry or any other industry which is very heavily regulated, there is the third option, which is the bespoke AI solutions, which is a kind of a sweet intersection between build and buy, where companies don't quite need to own or have the resources, those MLOps engineers and machine learning resources to build their own solutions. And they don't need to own the technology, maintain it, keep up with the latest advancements, but they still have the flexibility to tune and customize the way it operates and the way it provides outputs to them. How are we seeing those solutions be adopted? And what are the kind of key trends that we should be aware of? Haider, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say if you look at your need in a layer version, right? So, and you need to kind of handle the last mile. Like if you have this view on saying, I need a solution that needs to work 80% of the time, and I need that 20% to be maximizing my adoption. I always see those AI projects, it's adoption versus scalability. And that bespoke model can work really well in that last 20%. It makes the difference there. You can talk the language of the user. You can actually create just a different experience that will change dramatically the relationship you have with the adoption of the technology. I think this is where the effort should be put. The weight of your body should be there at the beginning. I think also the bespoke solution is future-proofed in the sense that you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what is coming tomorrow, and you don't need to break everything. So if you have this molecular or branches approach, it's easy for you to kind of just plug it, to plug it to a new channel. For example, if you say, hey, people are using that kind of experiences tomorrow, and audio or vertical video is a thing in medical affairs, and we need to transpose to vertical videos, then you might have an AI or model that you can plug. And I think that is the beautiful design of that type of approach.
That's really well put and summarized. Thank you for that, Haider. Vivek, anything to add to kind of the advantages of bespoke?
Yeah, I think the idea about the modular, this field is evolving so rapidly. So it is a way to risk mitigate against the buy option potentially, because then you are not baked into a specific model or specific orchestration, where you de-risk a lot of this. Also risk mitigation from risk mitigation perspective. And then you're working with potential bespoke solutions and hopefully expertise that is associated with your area, right? So medical affairs as an example, we for companies that don't have access to the engineers and they don't have access to data scientists, they could work with potential options, bespoke options that will allow them to put together a very unique solution for themselves that is very relevant to their business needs, right? So this could be aggregating a variety of data, unstructured data sources, putting them together. That's not easy. Sounds very easy, but it's not very easy to accomplish. And that can, for those type of options, bespoke would be a good path forward.
No, that's really great perspective. And I guess one other thing to add to kind of the bespoke option is usually the bespoke options are provided by companies who specialize only in that particular field or in that particular kind of sect. And what that means is that, unlike the off-the-shelf solutions, which are available to any industry, any type of business, and any number of individuals, the bespoke solution providers also provide that kind of sweet intersection between understanding the business acumen of the business and what they're trying to actually achieve, and the technical AI expertise that's required to make that bespoke solution come to life. And in many ways, that kind of ticks many boxes, because then the in-house team, the medical affairs team or the commercial team who's buying the solution doesn't need to kind of think too much about how do I instill my business case or my use case that I have to this provider and help them understand it, and then build me a bespoke solution based on that, because they already have the in-house expertise to who understands those business needs. So in many ways, that kind of provides another layer of efficiency, which helps with change management, because, you know, or maybe we should touch on change management, because change management is also a big, in many ways, a limitation where it comes to adoption of AI tools, which, you know, should be taken into account. So maybe anything to add on change management from either of you?
Yeah, I think change management is the number one, and I've seen so many CEOs and leaders in the organization in terms of incorporating AI within their practice. We all understand that AI has a potential. It is here. It is here to stay. It is going to revolutionize organizations, businesses. But to be able to adopt them, it's McKinsey poll was that only 20%, or you could say optimistically 20%, utilize generative AI in their work every week in US. So I think there's already a transition happening, but that number needs to be higher if you want to be successful to see business outcomes, right? So it's tying change management to connecting them to your business outcomes is going to be vital.
Absolutely. Okay, now that we've kind of covered all the various options in terms of build versus buy versus bespoke solutions, I also want to get your perspective on implementation strategy beyond change management, and how companies and teams should go about, you know, what are the best practices that they could adopt when it comes to successfully implementing their chosen solution. Any pro tips or guidance on that? Haider, we go with you first.
I mean, everyone is a little bit showcasing, you know, their best cases. I would urge, you know, the people who look at this to look at numbers, like not just you know, one fancy result and case study, but to actually really ask questions and not just stay at the demo, because you will always say you will always show you the best, you know, case ever, and it will kind of become bespoke at some point, because you cannot, there is no solution that is SaaS based today that can answer every single need, and it's changing so fast, right? So I would say from a selection of for making sure those projects are well done from the beginning, the type of partner you're going to recruit is quite important. If you work with startups, what we've seen is you need to let them work far away from the mothership, treat them like a vendor and a provider, not like an extension of your firm, because they might just get slowed down by the processes of the company, and that's not good in that field. If you really internalize, like sometimes you have contractors that basically build a bespoke project within your walls, which is a good thing as well, because they get the culture and so on. Same, I would say, don't put them in the heart of the company. Put them in a corner when they're not touched by the politics, and that is also what I would stress. Right, let those people do what they do best, without making them too farmer friendly. Right. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Also, internal bureaucracy can slow down kind of vendors.
Correct.
So that's
Yeah.
really good advice.
Especially
Right.
compliance. Yeah, the compliance question, you can spend 6 months just trying to philosoph about compliance in AI, and you know, you learn by doing in this field. Yeah.
That's really good. Thank you for that. Vivek, anything to add to that?
I think pilots that are understated in terms of getting teams to adopt, because then you can get a lot of user feedback, potentially feature sets that would need to be incorporated. So those, in addition to what Haider mentioned, right? So the change management piece, in addition to that, is the contracting legal aspects, to have very streamlined and very open discussions with the stakeholders. And then the last piece I'll add, metrics and measurements of what that impact looks like. Do it at the beginning of your AI journey when you're building those foundations. So.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much again, both of you, for your amazing insights and sharing your point of views on this topic. It's been really fantastic sitting with you and hearing from you. I'm going to wrap up the webinar at this point, unless either of you have anything else to add on this topic.
I mean, I would say it's interesting for people searching or seeking, answers. I know that a lot of feedback is, everyone talks about the same. We don't learn anything new. I think it's good to recognize that you guys wanted to really preparing this webinar, make it useful for the people outside that are trying to do the right thing, right? And not just surfing on the wave called AI. I think that is respectful for your effort to recognize that. And I would say, yeah, so it's a small community. There are a lot of groups online. There are a lot of Reddits. There are a lot of Twitter feed or X feeds. So you have to connect with the people who are creating this every day. And once you know how it works, then you can take better decisions. Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than actually taking the first step and doing. Vivek, any
Yeah,
final?
yeah, and I will echo that it's not a one size fits all. Figure out, especially for medical affairs, we know what our goals are, right? We need to improve patient outcomes through communication, through better data insights. And so when you're building these tools are very powerful, but work with someone who knows how to use them, or start building those internal capabilities within even medical affairs to have to everything we've just said today, to bring outcomes and improve outcomes for our patients.
Thank you. Thank you both so much again for your words of
Sure.
wisdom and sharing your experience and knowledge. As Haider said, there's nothing better than kind of connecting with the network of AI enthusiasts or professionals, which on LinkedIn you can find many of them. We will send a follow-up email after this webinar. If anyone's interested in just having a discussion around build versus buy versus bespoke, I'm very happy to jump on a complimentary call and just discuss those options with you, and kind of be a thought partner as you and your company go through those discussions and those decision makings. And I'm sure you can reach out to either one of our esteemed panelists, and they would be happy to
Sure.
share their perspectives too.
Of
There will
course.
also be further webinars like this, thought leadership webinars, non-promotional, where we just discuss the topical applications of AI for medical and commercial. So if you are interested in joining those, please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our future webinars and blog posts. And lastly, the recording for this particular webinar will be available and emailed out to everyone by email. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And thank you to Vivek and Haider for being amazing panelists in this webinar.
You got it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Bye-bye.